Africa is always on the verge of becoming the leading force. You know, everybody says it. The owner creator of Spotify, Daniel Ek, the creator and CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, and a lot of these people. And remember, we had a conversation about the unbanked, all these people who don't have bank accounts in the world. A lot of them are in Africa. And a lot of these companies are trying to penetrate this market because they are reaching the peak in terms of, they are reaching the peak in how many people, how many million active users they can have in the US, which is usually the countries where they start if they are American companies. And it's actually the country where startups become unicorns. And a lot of these people are not turning their eyes to Africa for a billion people who are, some of them connected to the internet, some of them not, some of them are in between, some of them still have, like, they all have, but a lot of them don't have bank accounts, but they all have smartphones now. In 2021, you can go in remote villages in Africa and you might have a bank account. People are still using money a certain type, a certain way, but they all have a smartphone. And they still, there is still I don't know, moto. There is still a lot of these places where they already exist, of course, things like, how you call this? Or they already have in Kenya, I think they have M-Pesa, which is a way to send each other currencies via the phone. In Congo, we have it as well. But it's still stuff that your operator does. It's not something that is done on the national level. And I don't remember how we started this conversation, right? But I know that we were talking about, and I'm just gonna take it from any end, and we'll just jump. We were talking about this last week. What does it take? And we had a conversation about YouTube and about how people make money on YouTube. You have to understand one thing. The views you make on YouTube, I don't know if I can find this in the studio, but let me see. Give me a second. Analytics. How can I see that? Revenue sources. Now I'm looking for something specific, which is give me just a second so that YouTube gives me that. But the views you make on YouTube are different depending on where your video is watched. And I was explaining to MJ that Moto, I was explaining to him that if you have 1 million views on a video and the person is viewing it in the US, you might make 1 million views from people watching in the US, you might make between $5,000 and $10,000. If you get 1 million views in France, you might make 3,000. If it's in Portugal, you're gonna make 1,000. If it's in Brazil, you're only gonna make 400. And why is that? Because the views that you make the views, the publicity that you might see or might not see when you are watching a YouTube video depends on what the deal that Google has with the specific country, and how much they sell the ads and who is buying the ads. So this is completely different from a person to another, and it's different from a country to another. And we were asking each other, why is an African artist not making money from their own YouTube views? And I was explaining to him that in Africa, Google has no monetization. In Africa, we are still in this place where there is no Google office other than South Africa, where Google can interface themselves with the people who want to buy ads to play for the African public. So when you watch videos on YouTube in Africa, if you make 20 million views with a video in Africa, you're gonna get nothing in terms of revenue, and you're gonna make all that money in shows, maybe if you go there to perform. But if you make your 20 million views in America, you're actually rich. You might get 200,000 K for these views, but the same amount of view in Africa, nothing. And what is the reason? Is that there's no company or nobody or no deals with governments. I don't know what is needed to do it, where Google can monetize the YouTube views. And actually, I don't think they don't want to. I just think that they don't know how to do it, because it's not like in the US or in France or in Portugal. I remember the monetization programs came to all these countries. It came to all these countries one by one. It started by the US, then it was UK, then it was France, and then it was Portugal. And it actually just started in Bangladesh, if I remember well, just now, and Russia and some places. And we were just saying, imagine if the African artists who live anywhere, remotely in a village or even in any capital in Africa, if they could monetize their YouTube views, things would be so different. And then we start going more and more in this conversation about where in Africa we are always on the verge. You know, I was remembering how when I made my 2003 album, It's All Love, and I had Kaysha, which is one of my biggest hits. I realized that I performed in all the countries in Africa, all of them. I performed everywhere. I've been in so many cities in the continent. And then I realized I didn't sell one CD out there because there was no distribution and there was no way for me to have my music be out there. And the only way to make money in Ivory Coast, in Congo, in Kenya, in all these places that I went was either you bring some CDs with you in your suitcase, you bring like 100 of them if you have some space, or either you just make money from the shows. And for us, Africa was a place where, yeah, everybody knew your songs and everybody had copies of your music, but nobody ever bought an album for real because there was no way for it. There's no infrastructure, etc., etc. And then the world changed. The world became digital. The world now, music is digital. Nobody buys music anymore. Some of us I used to buy cassettes, vinyls, CDs, mini discs. And now you go on Spotify, you pay 10 and boom, right? But then you're like, but how do you do it so that the African people, the African artists benefit from all this? Because you have a lot of African artists, the Davidos, all these artists, they come out of Nigeria, Fali Pupa, they come out of Congo, they come out of everywhere. but they have to go to Europe or to the US so they can explode. They don't explode the same way people explode all around the world from Africa. They always explode when they come out. So with YouTube, it's starting to shift the conversation because you have now some artists that are exploding in the continent. But then they have all these views that they cannot monetize. So they are still in a place where, unlike me, for example, I'm in a pandemic and listen, I can make money from Spotify stream, Apple Music streams, YouTube views. I can super chat when you guys like all this list of sponsors here. When you sponsor the show via super chat, this is a way to make money. And also I can do shows when shows are possible. There's so many ways, right? And for a lot of African artists, the only way is either sponsors, people who give you money to say their name in a song, or shows. That's it. That's all the options they have. Unless a music video becomes famous outside and it can bring money, a lot of African artists don't realize how they could make a ton of money from opening a YouTube channel and just having the possibility of expanding the things you want to say with YouTube. A lot of artists, they don't see it. They don't see it because for them, the only solution is playing on Trace TV, Channel O, MTV Base Africa, and maybe local channels, and become famous enough so that they can do a lot of shows. That's the only way they see it. And this comes with the lack of digital infrastructures in Africa. I believe that somebody who would want to change the continent would have to start by building an infrastructure in their country where everybody has access to the fastest internet, fiber optics, and like be connected to the node in South Africa and the node in Dakar, in Senegal, and just make it so that the infrastructure in Africa becomes so powerful that when we were saying last time, when you think about South American artists, how did the J Balvins and all of them explode? They exploded because all of a sudden there was all the companies gave an internet that didn't cost $50 to have 5 megabytes. Now for $5 a month or $10 a month, you had access to 10 gigabytes. And all of a sudden, all the kids, they start going on YouTube, and they made the J Balvins and the Osunas and all these artists, they made them become huge because all of a sudden you didn't have to be American to make millions of views. You could be in South America and have 20, 30, 40 million views because all the South American kids were on YouTube. Same thing here in Portugal when they started doing this thing called Mosh. This is for students, and for $5.99 per month, you get unlimited access to YouTube. All of a sudden, all the Kizomba artists, and Bruno, if I don't be probably sleeping now, but Bruno has his channel exploded because all of a sudden all the people who love Kizomba could watch and replay, and everybody start using their phones like crazy, right?